Good morning, friends. Well, as you can see, this Monday with me did not come out on a Monday. It is currently Wednesday morning, and I am finishing up editing. We had a wild weekend of one last very long volleyball tournament, and this was the state of my house when I returned Saturday night, excuse me. I will not tell you that it was perfect when I left, but when the cat's away. No, in my husband and children's defense, the house was pretty messy when I left, and then they were gone all day Saturday to an apple orchard in North Carolina where they met up with a bunch of family, and Eliana and I were so bummed to miss that time with them. But it's wonderful to be home. It's fantastic. The feeling of being finished with volleyball season is to me, equal to the last day of school for summer. I mean, so much of my time is now back to being mine. However, I knew that my Monday morning would start by tackling all of this. I've talked about this before in any productivity or day in the life videos. If I can start by cleaning my kitchen and shining my sink and making my bed, that is always the best place for me to start. So I got started by doing a ton of laundry on Sunday so that I would have time to fold everything and put it all away and kind of start from scratch on Monday. I have tried so many different laundry routines over the years, but now that my kids are all older and capable of doing their own, we pretty much just wash it as we need it. Now that my bed is made and the laundry is all put away, it is time to tackle the kitchen. Now, one of my teenage girls is on dishes this week, but I decided I wanted to give her a clean slate to start with on this Monday morning. We typically change our chores over on Sundays. If you are new here, we have a nice big chore rotation. All of my kids, even down to the youngest, who is 7, have one chore a week that they are responsible for doing every day, and none of it takes more than 10 or 15 minutes. Some of them literally take 5. But dishes is usually the biggest one, of course, and I certainly help out throughout the week. So I wanted to be able to give Amaris a clean slate to start with on this Monday, and it felt so good to get the kitchen nice and clean after the disaster we came home to on Saturday. Now that I have a fresh canvas to work with, it is time to make it messy again. No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully not. But I do want to start this day by making another batch of pumpkin bread. So I have this really fantastic pumpkin bread recipe that I've had for years. I've made a few tweaks along the way. I'm not even sure where it came from initially, probably somewhere online or maybe a friend. I'm not sure. But it is so moist and just the perfect texture and consistency. It turns out perfect every time. It is just, to me, it is my favorite treat when fall first arrives. I made a batch over the weekend to share with friends, and so now I'd like to make another batch that we can have here at the house for the week. This recipe makes 2 large loaves that you will see toward the end of this video, or I think it makes 3 smaller loaves like you would make in, I think, an 8-inch sweetbread pan, and I don't have those anymore since I primarily make sandwich bread. So anyway, you'll see what I use toward the end and you can decide what you want to use, but I will include the recipe in the description below. Our chickens are going on 4 years old, and they are drastically slowing down in their egg production. I am already, here we are just the middle of October, I'm already having to dip into our water-glassed eggs, which I did not save nearly as many this year, just because we had major issues with keeping the nesting boxes nice and clean, so very few of the eggs that were coming in were clean enough to preserve in this method. In order to water glass eggs, the eggs need to be fresh, unwashed, and pretty much perfectly clean. I have a video on how we water glass our eggs, and I will include a link to that in the description below. I would say the oldest eggs that we've eaten were probably 9 or 10 months old. We don't really have to preserve them for, 5 or 6 months at a time because we have very short winters here in the South. A month or 2 into 2023, we did run out of our water-glassed eggs, and our chickens were not laying at all, or they may have been laying like an egg a day or something. And egg prices were still through the roof. So we did put some lights out in the coop on a timer, which basically tricks the chickens' bodies into laying again because they have the adequate amount of light, which is really surprising because it's still dark outside, but the lights on a timer are just enough to make the chickens start laying again. Normally, we would allow the chickens to rest all winter. I mean, that's how nature intended it, but you know, grocery prices have been through the roof and we're still paying for feed. So at the beginning of this year, we did get the chickens laying about 6 weeks earlier than they would have naturally. In our area, egg prices are back down to normal. I was able to get a box of 60 eggs from Walmart the other day it was under $5. So I went ahead and jumped on that because we are going to put a light out in the coop on a timer again this weekend, but it'll probably be a week or two before they really pick up their laying again, particularly because they're getting old. It is time to mix my wet ingredients in with my dry ingredients, and this makes me so excited. My house is going to smell so good when this is baking. And when I put this in the oven, it needs to bake for probably 35 to 40 minutes. And I'm going to take that opportunity to go pick my son up from work, which is about 7 or 8 minutes away. And we are down a car right now, so we're kind of playing the chauffeur shuffle. Many years ago, the woman who made our wedding cake told me that one of the secrets to her cakes is to let it go in the mixer for several minutes after it's well combined. It just puts a little more air in your batter and it makes it nice and velvety soft and fluffy. One thing that I just recently started doing with things like sweetbreads is putting parchment paper in my loaf pans. How have I never done this before? This was such a game changer, and it makes cleanup and taking the loaves out so incredibly easy. So I basically just spooned the batter into the pan lined with parchment paper, a few cups in each at a time until I got it nice and even. Before I stuck them in the oven, I wanted to tidy up the pans a little bit. I trimmed the tops of the parchment paper so they wouldn't catch fire in my gas oven or just really burn at the top. Lastly, I tried to flatten out the folds as best I could so that when I take the pans out and they're already baked, we don't take any big chunks out of the bread by taking the parchment paper off. This is the finished product. They are perfect. It is sometimes hard to get sweet bread just right without burning the edges or the bottom because you have to bake them for so long. But somehow this parchment paper method and using these longer pans, they come out perfect every time. It is so good. You can see here to my right that I've got some softened butter already, and the teenagers and I enjoyed a fresh slice with melted butter before we wrapped them up and put them away. I wish that I had filmed us making dinner last night. My big girls helped me make venison burgers with bacon. We dug potatoes out of the garden together to make homemade fries. It was a delicious meal. But thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you next time.